Well, we are live, ladies and gentlemen. I am so excited to be joined by my personal female journalist hero. When I moved to New York and I was a little baby, 25-year-old, and I started writing about women's rights, about sexism, trying to overcome it in the workplace. I was so inspired by Soraya Chomali, who's joining us here today. She wrote an amazing book called All We Want is Everything. Okay, if that's just like, I don't think there's a better book title in the world. She wrote she's also the author of Rage Becomes Her, which is an amazing book about female anger and how to channel it. We will be having a second guest throughout the live, Como, my friend Minhas, who's going to help us how to channel our rage, because you might feel some rage, okay? You might feel
Yeah.
some anger during this live, and it is good. I think it is a good thing. There's a lot to be angry about, but we have an amazing expert to help us understand just like what happened this week. Where do we go from here? Do you identify as a piggy, Soraya? Because I do now. I'm
I
like,
do
piggy
now.
tonight.
I mean, what choice do we have at this point, right? And honestly, I don't know if you've seen the video that's zipping around, the animated
Which one?
video of
Which one?
it's a new song called Quiet Piggy. And I
Oh,
just love the internet. I love the internet. I love what people do. I know
yeah.
all the bad stuff, but this
Mhm.
song really made me laugh. I'll send it to you later. People
Well,
can
that's
Google it.
funny. I wish we could play it right now.
I
As
know.
maybe it could be the soundtrack, like the opening track to our live.
That's
I
right.
think just like a lot of things that he says, we have to reclaim it. You know, it's just so. I did a whole video about how I thought it was actually very it was very gay coded of him to say that.
Hmm.
And I believe that the rumors that he engaged in some sexual acts with men is actually pissing him off more than the rumors that he is involved in a sex trafficking ring.
I
So
agree.
that's
I
why
agree
I'm
with
going
you.
hard on that.
Yeah, and I
Really?
also think more people are disturbed by that than they are the trafficking of girls.
Yeah, that's
It's really remarkable.
yes. Well,
Yes.
you wrote an entire book about this. You've really devoted your life to understanding how misogyny operates. Um, were you surprised to see Donald Trump really just attack female journalists this week, of all weeks, when he was pressed on not just the Epstein files and why would he not want to release something that in which he's totally innocent? He was asked that question and snapped. And then he was also asked a question by another female reporter with ABC in the White House because he was with the Saudi prince who
Yes.
has credible allegations of murder of a Washington Post journalist. And
Yes.
this woman had the gall to ask him a question about that.
Mm.
And Trump also snapped. So I'm curious how you viewed this week in terms of Trump's reactions
Mhm.
and how women really, I mean, I just put out an Substack right before our live about how women have absolutely ruined the workplace.
Yes.
Like female journalists have
I mean,
absolutely ruined
clearly
the
they're
workplace.
ruining his workplace.
Yeah, his workplace, which I love. But yeah, I'm curious, what was your reaction to all of
So
that?
I also wrote a Substack about this because I was really pissed off that there were headlines that said things like, did Trump really call a woman a pig? And it makes it sound like it's an outlier or it's some information we didn't know. And so I just pulled my list of all the things, and there are more than 35. There are probably 40 specific things that he uses to denigrate women. And
Yeah.
for white women, they tend to be domesticated animals, cows, pigs, tame animals. And when he's insulting Black women, brown women, immigrant women, it's more disgust and contempt, vile dog, stupid, low
Oh,
intelligence.
I
And so,
do.
I mean, I'm utterly unsurprised, right? This is completely unsurprising. And so, to me, I want to be surprised. I want to know what the man would have to say about women that would make other men
Mm.
not support him anymore. And I don't think there's any bar that exists.
Yeah.
Clearly, you
Or
know.
other women. I
Well,
mean, can we
other
talk
women,
about
yes.
that?
Yes, other
Because
women for sure, but
because
men
there's a
overwhelmingly voted for him,
sure,
and I'm just
100%.
like,
Yeah.
what is that?
What's the
Definitely other
line?
women. Yeah.
Yes, and is child rape the line? Because,
Is it the line? There are men
yeah.
out there saying, "What's wrong with child rape this week?" Have you seen these interviews? There's
Mhm.
a
Can you
cadre
talk
of
about it?
people.
Can you talk about it for people who, have not been exposed to what's going on the
Yes.
other
I
half of the
mean,
internet?
there are interviews zipping around. I can't
Yeah.
remember sources right now, but if you Google them, you
Mhm.
will find them, of people talking to Trump supporters and saying, "Is child rape does it disqualify him because child rape?" And their response is, "What exactly is wrong with that? What is wrong with adults?" And there's a young man debater whose name escapes me right now, but he literally doesn't know how to answer that question.
Dean Withers. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He doesn't know how to answer the question, and you just think, "Wait, what? Like, are you actually saying that out loud, and we're supposed to take that seriously as a point of argument in this case?"
Yeah.
You know? And so, yeah, I just am wondering, is there any bar? And clearly there's no bar,
Mm,
and that's but I said men in particular for a reason.
yeah,
In Congress, 3 MAGA women have refused to back down.
yeah,
And I think it's clear because of their own experiences with sexual violence and with harassment.
yeah.
And that makes a difference. And I think men who have experienced that, it also makes a difference to them,
Mhm, mhm.
you know.
Yeah, Nancy Mace as,
Lauren Boebert,
people yeah,
Marjorie
might be
Taylor
aware.
Greene.
Yeah. Nancy Mace has been pretty open about the fact that she's a sexual assault survivor,
Yeah.
kind of used that to justify her transphobic,
Yes, that's right.
policies for bathrooms in Congress,
Mhm.
and other places in the United States. But, yeah, have Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Marjorie Taylor Greene hasn't said anything about that, but
Yeah.
Lauren Boebert apparently has.
Oh,
And
interesting,
so,
interesting.
despite the great pressure that has been put on them, they have refused to buckle. They're
Yeah.
like, "No, release them."
Yeah.
And it's the first, I think, really remarkable split in MAGA in
Mhm.
this way, and it
Yeah.
kind of I can see why he would be concerned and threatened.
Yeah. Do you think that this takes him down?
Does it take him down? I doubt it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty cynical. If it takes him down, I think it will be homophobia that does it. Not really. Like, it's terrible.
Interesting.
What don't we know at this
Yeah, yeah,
point?
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
And
mean,
facts we
yeah.
know don't change people's minds. So there's
Yeah.
that,
Right, right.
and so I'm pretty cynical and I don't think so.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What are your thoughts? So just before we went live, I think this happened today, but recently, so the Washington Post has written an editorial, like their editorial board basically has is arguing that we shouldn't release the Epstein files because what's in them is not going to be that like important.
Yes.
It might be damaging to a lot of people who I don't know. Obviously, Jeff Bezos, being in charge of the Washington Post, has dramatically changed the newspaper. This is not the first time that
Yes,
they
that's right.
have sort of sided with the powerful instead of making the powerful uncomfortable, which is what journalism is supposed to do.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm curious of your take on that.
So,
Hearing
yeah,
that
I
news.
mean, I am on the record multiple times, including probably too many Substack posts, saying, yes, Epstein was a horrible person. Yes, Trump has
Mhm.
clearly engaged in criminal behavior and been found liable for sexual assault. But I don't think we should be focused on individual men as monsters. I think the
Mhm.
whole issue is to focus on all of the institutions that
Yeah.
buffered them and allowed and facilitated them. Because in fact, the power that they are using and the abuse of children and adolescent girls in this case, it's like a global cartel. It has financial assistance. It has legal assistance. It has media complicity. It has every single institution is complicit in the decades over which this happened. And so, compared to what that environment, the Post saying don't release the files may seem minor, but in fact, to me, it's just an extension of
Mhm.
what someone just wrote a systemic abuse of power looks like. And I think that's what it is.
Yeah. I think that was so I mean, as just a human being watching the news, sometimes if I take my, sort of time as a journalist brain
Yeah.
off, and I just, yeah, I'm watching, particularly for me, I don't know why it struck me, um, seeing the images of the, yeah, Prince of Saudi Arabia with Donald Trump and him yelling at this female reporter.
Yes.
It just felt like such a charade. It feels like a Simpsons episode.
It
It feels like,
does.
right? And so it does show or give you the, sort of sense that the world really is run by a bunch
You
of
feel like
men,
a
powerful
conspiracy
men.
theorist. Do you
Well,
remember the
yeah,
golden orb picture in 2016?
vaguely. Can you
So
that
it
was
was
yeah.
Saudi princes, Trump, Melania, a couple of other people, and they were standing around a golden orb, a ball, and they all had their hands on it, and it was sort of backlit, and it looked like a nefarious cave with wizards. I mean, you couldn't make it up. And that's when you really think, I always say this, we are in a simulation and they are
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
pranking us, right?
Yeah.
But, what he said when he castigated the journalist, when she asked him about this, was things happen. He literally dismissed the murder of the journalist and the possible complicity of his guest and just waved it away.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I think it's just that it does feel like a Simpsons episode, but there is part of me that thinks, so the gloves are off. This has always been the case. But now we're really seeing what it looks like when it's angry and aggrieved and defiant about the
Mhm.
exercise of power.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, what happened I mean, is like, in your view, what is the best strategy when, to your point, it's not about catching one bad guy, right? Or
right.
two bad guys, right? Jeffrey Epstein, I mean, is dead.
Yeah.
And, as obviously, that did not, solve anything. We are still
No,
living
that's right. It
into
doesn't matter. There are more of him.
yes. Yes,
Yes.
and you're right that focusing on specific sort of people, uh, makes it seem like it's not an entire system,
Mhm.
and I think the emails have made that very clear from,
Right.
Michael Wolff,
Larry Summers, like you
Larry
can't,
Summers.
the things that
Yeah.
people are saying. And someone pointed out to me today, they were saying those. If you look at the dates, as Me Too was rolling out, 2017, 2018, those conversations, those flippant, lighthearted dismissals of abuse and jokey
Yeah.
horror show were going on while that outpouring of anger and grief was happening.
Yeah. You know what's so interesting is that that there's just an ongoing conversation about, did Me Too go too far?
Oh, yes.
I always, yeah, just find it so eye
Did it
rolling
go too far?
inducing. But what's funny about that conversation is that very often we will point to sort of yeah, maybe lower status
Mhm.
men who may have lost their jobs, right? May have been outed
Yes.
for behavior that to the person making this argument
Yes.
seems like it wasn't that bad, right? That
Yeah.
that this wasn't rape, this wasn't assault. But then you have the extremely powerful men like Donald Trump, who
Mm.
has been accused by, I believe the number is 27
Yes.
women,
Yes.
of different kinds of sexual misconduct. He has been found liable for sexual abuse, in the court of
It
law.
doesn't matter.
Right, but those guys don't, right? So the entire idea that it went too
Yeah.
far when the president is the president, and that he
Yeah.
may even survive the Epstein, being in the Epstein files is sort of does tell you everything.
Well, I admit, I can't think of the Epstein files without thinking of the Boy Scouts or the Roman Catholic Church
Mm,
and the rape of children and the trafficking of children. Like, this is why, to me, looking at the way racialized misogyny and patriarchy as institutions work
mhm,
together not to prevent sexual violence, which is key to upholding all those forms of oppression, but to facilitate it, to regulate it. It's a regulator. It's not trying to stop it. It's actually distributing the right to act with or without impunity,
yeah,
right? And so the fact that less than 1% of rapists are ever face actual consequences is a testament to the fact that the entire system in regards to rape is not about preventing rape.
yeah,
And so I just think that finding mechanisms to work against those institutions, and that means socially, culturally, financially, legally, politically, is going to be required. Otherwise, we're just playing whack-a-mole with
Yeah.
with these men
Is
and
yeah,
the women who are also involved. Like, clearly that is the case.
right. Is there any indicators that there would be male victims? I know
In
that's
this
been sort
case,
yeah,
not
with the
so
SG
far. I haven't
yeah,
seen that other than
yeah,
like possible former
right.
president. No.
Right. And is there an example? I mean, so in your book, one of the things I think is so interesting is that you um uh, talk about how to dismantle male supremacy,
Yes.
which is a different term, that than we're used to sort of
Mm.
hearing. We're used to the word patriarchy.
Yeah.
Why the word male supremacy?
So, a couple of things. One is, I think what I try to explain in the book is patriarchy is it's institutions. It's a system of institutions that preference men in a father mode,
Mhm,
and we live with those institutions. We can
mhm,
describe them, we know what they are. So all major religions, for example, education systems, like seriously, like the governance of our country, all patriarchal. And that's true still. Regardless of the presence of more women in government, for example. And then we have gender equality, right? And I think everybody was fine with the notion of gender equality in the United States, for example, as long as it meant women striving to have what men had.
mhm,
As the minute it became clear that that's not what feminism or women's liberation was about, and that women wanted the power to redefine, to
mhm,
not necessarily do what men do or behave the way men behave, that's when the fear really kicked in.
mhm.
Because even the gender equality frame is male supremacist if your goal is to be like men.
Yeah.
Right? Male supremacy then is the belief system that perpetuates all of those things.
Mhm,
It's the belief in the superiority of cisgendered men in a way that gives them more authority, expertise, power, influence, resource management, control, all of those things. And it
mhm,
in a way that then means that they have the power to other trans people, queer people, women, minorities, immigrants that do not fit into this idealized mode. And I
mhm.
think that it's important to use the word male supremacy because it gives us a more facility with the way supremacist systems work together. So
Yeah.
male supremacy works across other oppressions and also within them,
Yeah.
right? And so that's how we end up with cis white men at the top of power structures and Black trans women or Indigenous women literally impoverished and vulnerable to all kinds of violence in the same society.
Yeah, and even male supremacy, you could argue, was extremely present in the sort of 2010s,
Oh,
sort of
yes.
corporate feminist,
Yes. Be like the
discourse.
men.
Yes, and I
Yes.
think in many ways and when we're talking about this, it's sort of the lean in era,
Yes.
that I think to you and me, and probably a lot of people who are joining us today for the show, it was clear that it was very white, that it was very corporate,
Yes.
and that it was still steeped in trying to be like men, but that was sort of a very mainstream,
For
uh,
sure. Very
you know,
neoliberal feminist economics, all of this.
exactly, and
Yes.
it was still seen as radical, by the way. Like, it was seen as radical. I
Yes.
think back, when I saw the "Are Women Ruining the Workplace?" I sort of wrote about one of my first articles when I moved to New York and I was trying to be you, when I grow up, I wrote, a response to a New York Times Room for Debate, which was entitled, "Can Women Lead?" That was
Oh,
the headline. Do
yes.
you remember that? Do
Yes,
you
I
remember
do.
that? If you were in the 2010s digital media world,
Yes.
this was our, Armageddon, and it was so striking that's where we were. So this version of corporate feminism, even though to us feels pretty like
Yes.
right wing or centrist, was actually pretty radical even in the 2010s. But all this to say that I think it almost laid the groundwork for the feminist backlash that we're in right now, because you have a lot of people like Candace Owens, people who are sort of
Yes.
like Megyn Kelly, sort of right wing figures who
Girl
are still
bosses.
girl bosses, but they actually will make an argument against feminism by saying, is you're not going to be fulfilled if you're just working all the time, if you
That's
don't
right.
have kids, if you focus on your career. And I think people like you and I want to go, that's not feminism is
That's
about
right.
choice. It's about being able to it's about actually being able to be a mom and work
Yes.
so that we have public services and social services like childcare and paid parental leave and all those things, which we never got, right?
Yeah.
And their argument is women are unhappy, women are overworked, and therefore feminism, is
Well,
bad.
and they
And
call their argument conservative feminism, which is an
yes,
oxymoron, right?
yes,
Like, in
yes,
fact, that is a nonsense term.
yes.
Yes.
It doesn't exist. I mean, what is conservative feminism?
I mean, I think they probably are thinking more along the lines, seriously, of Phyllis Schlafly,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
they're
yeah.
all women who are out there earning a lot of money
Yes.
trying to do what they're doing in
Yeah,
public
yeah,
and not home taking care of the children the way they're telling all the other women to
yeah,
do, you know?
yeah,
And so I think that that's what they mean. Like,
yeah.
and it's just not in their interests to consider what you or what I are really saying,
Yeah.
you
I mean,
know?
and it's still seeped in male supremacy. And I mean,
It is.
if you argue that women are unhappy right now, and that's sort of you want to agree with that premise. I don't know if you do, but even if we agree with that, it's not because of feminism. It's because of male supremacy
And it's a yeah,
into
it's because
feminism.
of male
Yeah,
supremacy, it's because of capitalism,
yeah,
it's because of
yeah.
white supremacy, and I mean, I think the interesting thing is when you start peeling back the onions of what they're saying, like peeling the skin
Mhm.
off the onion,
Yeah.
you have to go back to gender essentialist roles and responsibilities and relationships that are always binary and they're always hierarchical.
Hmm,
So you
hmm,
end up with Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes having some benign conversation about, women having to be subordinate in marriage and laughing it off as, oh, I'm a little bit sexist. But that's not what's happening. It's not about someone's personal opinion. It's not about whether your wife chooses to be subordinate or not. It's about the fact that every single system we live in assumes that structure and that men, particularly if they're white, will have this asset at home that is
hmm.
not paid, that provides all the emotional care work, physical labor, less sleep, less time, less pleasure, no orgasms, just go down the list, right? Like you can go any direction you want. And and that's the way the systems are built. The workplace systems are built that way, the schools are
Yeah,
built that way, the government is built that way, and the government's retrenching that, right? Like they just
yeah,
recategorized what counts as professional and
yeah,
basically put female dominated jobs in an unprofessional class and all the male dominated jobs in the professional class.
yeah.
And so they want to make sure, Project 2025, that they entrench that vision of
Hmm,
society. That's their
yeah.
goal. They're not even hiding it. They've never hidden it.
And it reminds me of a little bit what happened with healthcare in this country, where the right wing will sort of um poke holes or what's the word I'm like create obstacles for progress. And
Yes.
so healthcare is a perfect example, right? Socialized healthcare is the goal.
Yes.
I think for progressives, in many countries, our favorite the countries that run the best, where people are the happiest, have socialized medicine. Canada being one
People
of
are
them.
healthy and safer. This is so
Yes,
basic.
and that's what progressives tried to do, and
Yes.
conservatives created basically the public option, which was like, not as good. And so what they will do is say, don't you hate what they've done? Don't you
Mm.
hate this version? And progressives want to say, yeah, we
We
hate it.
do hate that.
We we want it to
Yes.
be more progressive, but they go, don't you hate it? We should go back. We should go
Yes.
back to no one, having anything.
That's
And
right.
that's sort of what they do with a lot of things. And I think it's it's very manipulative, but those are the things I often hear
Absolutely.
from conservatives at Turning Point USA conferences that I'll
Yes.
go to. They I think as a progressive, you think, oh, they're dumb, they don't
No.
understand, they want no healthcare. No, they want a better healthcare, but they're being told that privatization is going to be better when actually, again, no, industrialized country has ever gone in
Right.
that direction. If you're trying
Yeah,
to
and I mean,
make
you're talking
progress.
about Turning Point USA, and I think
Yeah.
just to go back to something else we were saying that is directly related to this, that idea that you blame feminism for unhappiness.
Yeah.
is a real bait and switch, right? Because every conservative at the Turning Point USA conference lives a profoundly feminist life.
Mhm.
Every woman there can divorce if she needs to, can not be raped by her husband, can own her own bank account,
Own
can rent
credit
her
card.
own home, can take out her own mortgage, can drive her own car. Every man benefits from those things and also from the fact that women are not getting pregnant every
Mhm.
time and having
Yeah.
babies every time they have sex. Like, all of those things are true, and yet we're supposed to somehow magically ignore that
Yeah. Yeah,
and
yeah.
pretend that those are not the results of,
Yeah.
liberation movements, racial and gender liberation movements that enable that to
Yeah.
happen. And so I just think we have to stop arguing in their frames,
Yeah,
reject the frame entirely because
totally.
they're just magical thinking frames. If you
Yeah.
said at Turning Point USA, okay, well, let's take away your ability to go to school, which they don't want women to do anyway, and your car and your apartment and your job and your money, and
Yeah.
let's go to 1953 again. Bye. Go. Be happy there. And I don't think it would work out so well, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I totally agree. I love that point. So, DeAndre Keller says, "Thoughts on what comes after male supremacy? What should we be trying to build in its place? Is it
Yes.
matriarchy? Is that possible? How do we get there?"
So I'm not a big matriarchy person myself.
Oh, okay.
Because I think it's just the same framework of
Yeah.
hierarchy and distribution, and it's also very binary. And so I think what we're talking about, and the book that I've just written is really, as I was saying just before, it's a nut. It's a small nut in part of this big problem that we tend not to think about or talk about.
Mhm.
But it's not so much that male domination is the thing. It is that the idea of that someone must be dominating, that violence is acceptable, that hierarchy is the only way to live, that competition and individualism are the end all and be all of societal existence. It's the structures of thought that create supremacy, all sorts of supremacy, right? And I think a lot of people, for example, don't realize that the categories of race that Americans are socialized and learn about, first of all, they're not universal. Race is constructed a million different ways, as is gender, across different societies. And we have this kind of totalitarian idea, American entitlement, it must be because we say it is and we're better and all of these things. And also that historically, even those categories that we think of as race did not exist.
Yeah.
We don't talk about that. They are they're constructs that basically came out of capitalism and the Enlightenment. And so I think that the structure of thought, Western structure of thought, is being challenged everywhere. And you have indigenous ways, decolonial movements. And so for me, it is a re-envisioning of how society organizes itself completely. And that starts off, honestly, with identities, because our identities are informed by these worldviews. And right now, boys, you know this better than everybody. Your book is about this topic. The way boys are socialized is largely harmful to them, harmful to their relationships, harmful to society, harmful to the environment. And yet we think it's the only way.
Yeah.
And it's not the only way. So that's sort of where I am. The thing about matriarchy to me is I think people who really, all of us grow up in a sex segregated society, and it's also zero sum, right? It's either patriarchy or matriarchy. And
Yeah.
that's the same framework. I'm saying chuck that framework, get
Mm.
out of there. Don't think in terms of individualism, think in terms of interpersonhood,
Mhm.
collectivity, mutual care, solidarity, all of
Yeah.
those things.
Because that ultimately, just to come back to the happiness argument, which I agree with you, is just sort of this. I mean, it's so old. What
It's
people use
recycled
to.
every single
It's
10
it's
years.
exactly. It
Yeah.
was used, to promote slavery. There was
Yes.
a
Oh,
whole
it's still being used to promote
discourse.
slavery.
Yeah, that slaves are
Happier.
happier when they're not
Enslaved.
free. Which yeah, people are happier when they're not enslaved, which is I
When
don't
they
even know where to
are
begin.
enslaved.
Right, right. And so,
It's terrible.
but so are you, you know, it relates to the whole, yeah, sort of conservative argument that feminism makes women miserable. I think what makes us miserable is the lack of cooperation, it's the lack of collaboration, it's the
It's the
lack of community.
disappointment.
Yes, yes, the lack of safety, right?
Yes,
For a lot of women within a system where, again, the country's run by a gang of thugs, basically, who are harmful
right.
to women and with other men who protect them. And so what you're saying is,
And women who protect them. That's the
and
point,
women who
right?
protect them.
Right.
Yes, yes. What so is there a country that is there a country doing it right, or a
I mean, I
tribe, or
think there are a
what
handful of
who can we
countries,
yeah,
like I th Iceland is the one that comes to mind, mainly because it just celebrated the 50 years of its massive one-day strike.
yeah,
And what to me is notable about that is they had the strike,
yeah.
and it's a small homogenous country. So,
Let's talk about the strike for people who might
yes.
not know. It was a
Oh,
women all
every
decided to
woman in the
strike.
country
Yeah,
stopped working. They did not take care of children, they did not go to work. And one day of that, and the entire country understood care as infrastructure. That just happened. And so what was interesting was that within a year, they had women in politics. They had policies for the workplace. And then they had the first woman head of state ever. And then they continued. And over the years since, periodically, women will have another strike because they're like, no, we're backsliding. No, we have to do something. And in fact, that is a revolution. It just happened in slow motion. It wasn't the barricades and it wasn't the marches. It was literally the granular work of day-to-day life. And also, they immediately envisioned what it would mean for men, for example, to take parental leave. So now anyone with a child gets 6 months. I think it's 6 months parental leave. If they have a partner, it's 6 months and then 6 months, so the child is at home with someone for a
yeah,
year.
yeah.
And it is this notion that they don't seem to gender parenting into caring and providing and protecting. Those are the same thing. Men want to provide and protect because they are caring for the people they love, and women care also by providing and protecting. So why do we use these different words and these different ideals, you know?
Yeah.
And so, yes, I would say they're probably and honestly, every study you did this in your book. Every country that does this, every country that pursues gender equality is happier, safer, less violent, more progressive and egalitarian, has better policies regarding the climate or the environment, better policies about immigration. There's not one dimension of life that is not improved by this.
Mhm. And by the way, not just an improvement of women's lives, an improvement of men's lives. You
Absolutely.
know, men
Families' lives, men's
yes.
lives, like the
Yeah.
society is
Yes.
improved by this. And it's
Yes.
not like you're speculating,
No, no, we have
we
evidence
know
that
this. We have
feminist
the evidence,
societies,
right?
men are happier, live longer, are less likely to divorce, less likely to
Yes.
die of
They
violent
have more
death in
friends.
feminist societies.
Yes. That's
Yeah, I did. I went to Iceland. One of the things I did was I went to Iceland to check up on all the men
yes,
to make
yes.
sure they
How
were
were they?
okay. And I was like, blink twice if you need me to save you. And they were like, no,
Yes.
I'm good. I don't
I'm good.
want to go
I'm
to
good. I'm
America.
good. Yes. So
Allison
that's
said,
probably it, you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, Allison says has a good point. She says, I love Iceland, but yes, but they have the luxury of being small and homogenous.
Yes, that's
There's
right.
still sexism. Yeah, the thing
Yes, there is.
that
And there are high
strikes
rates of
me,
violence still
high
against
rates of
women.
right, because what I was interested in, and I studied in Denmark because I really
Yeah.
was obsessed with happiness and feminism, and so this was my jam. But I was struck by the fact that I would have expected rates of sexual violence and gender-based violence to go down in these countries, and
Yes.
I don't think there's a significant sort of difference. And I'm curious how you explain that.
So I can't explain it.
Yeah.
And I think they're trying to explain it. They're trying to study it. And I think that part of the issue, as far as I can tell, having also looked at it the way you have looked at it,
Hmm.
is that while there are improvements along the lines that we just described, they are still patriarchal societies,
Yeah.
right? And we don't know what it looks like to not have a patriarchal society, right?
Mm.
And so, for example, in indigenous communities today in the United States and in Canada, there are very high rates of violence. But the violence against women is perpetrated, unlike in any demographic group, mainly by non-Indigenous men, right? Like white women mainly sexually assaulted by white men, Black women, but not Indigenous women. They're mainly being assaulted by men in other demographic groups.
Mhm.
And I think that people don't realize that prior to colonization, there were many Indigenous communities where if there were rapes, which were rare,
Mhm.
men were exiled and women that were raped got to pass judgment on them. They got to say what
Mhm.
happened. That is not a patriarchal society. You know, they had women rulers, they had men and women with societal roles. Um, and so I think even though the Nordic countries have done well, they are still patriarchal. They're just
Yeah.
better. And so again, I think it goes back to the belief systems. And even in those countries, you will find that male supremacism persists.
Right. Yeah, I love that point. I think it's so exciting to think it could be scary, but I think it's exciting to think that the world we could live in just doesn't exist, and that it is so different, it is so freeing, it is so beautiful, it is so, uh, jubilant that we don't even know, like, we don't even have, like,
Well,
an
yeah,
example of what that is,
but
right?
I think we do have examples. Like, I don't know if
Yeah.
you know, some of, there's several books about indigeneity in the United States and also Australia and Canada, right? And I think this point about sexual violence and patriarchy is a good one because, in fact, in those societies that were radically differently organized, they had different ontologies, they had different
Mhm.
political structures. That violence did not exist the way it existed after colonialism. You know, when the British and the Spanish came to the United States and they engaged indigenous nations and they were trading with indigenous people, they basically sold to many indigenous men the promise of domination of women.
Yeah.
And they took that promise and they used it. And so I think it was in 1832, the right for women in certain nations to judge their rapists was taken away from them.
Mhm.
They had it before. So it's not that we don't have alternatives or examples. It's just
Yeah,
that
yeah,
we
yeah.
have no living memory of them in mainstream life,
Right. Yeah.
you
Yeah, yeah,
know?
yeah. And that the way that history is told, is still within that male supremacy sort of
Right.
framework. I often, yeah, I'll read conservative literature about feminism because I just think it's good to know
Fascinating.
what they
I
are
do too.
thinking. Yeah,
Totally fascinating.
it is, and
Yeah.
there's a real sort of, I would say, obsession with gender essentialism, which you
Yes.
you talked about earlier, which is this idea that men are like this and
And
women are
women
like
are
that.
like this.
And you will not be fulfilled if you have a career,
Yes.
even though I have a career and I'm that I'm using to tell you not
Yes,
to have
that's
one.
right.
And I think particularly with my work around men
Yes.
and boys, I get a lot of pushback, this entire idea of, like, we're of feminization, right? That we have feminized men and boys as if again we lived in a society in which, that wasn't totally just a male supremacy.
Yeah.
I really do think it's funny that they think that, yeah, like, feminists are so powerful that we don't have equality for ourselves, but we are strong enough to have feminized men and
Feminized men. And the other thing, I
boys.
think about you all the time with this because there are a lot of Johnny come latelys jumping into the masculinity space and just saying things based on their
Yeah.
opinions. Okay.
Mhm.
And I think that even progressive people, even parents who are progressive,
Mhm.
because of sex segregation, because of patriarchy, they fundamentally don't think women can teach men how to be men.
Yeah.
And so they will only listen to men talk about how to be men. And that is the most patriarchal thing I can imagine, right? And this is in a world in which women still are being told to be like men,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
right? To compete, you have to be like a man. To be brilliant, you have to articulate yourself like a man. To,
Mhm.
have authority, you need to dress like a man. And nobody thinks about that. And yet there's no expectation that the men, this is the scary thing about feminism now, this is
Mhm.
why scapegoating and hurting trans people matters, that men might also want to be like women. That's not,
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
understand that's not what transness is about, but in the conservative mind, it is what transness is about.
yeah.
And that quality of blending and fluidity and not rigid rules is
Mhm.
panic inducing, right?
100%. Yeah, I talk a lot about Robert. I just made me laugh with this comment. He said, "I've learned more from Liz than any man," which I I don't believe, but I really
Mm,
respect. But yeah, I would love to talk a little bit. I know we're gonna have Como join us in a little bit, but maybe we can sort of talk about this. Yeah, what are your thoughts about this new crop of men who are talking about masculinity? I agree with you. I think that many of them are well-intentioned, but what's interesting to me as an observer is that many of them are still seeped into that male supremacy. They're still seeped
100%.
into that patriarchal programming.
Yes.
And there's still one thing, okay, I feel like this feels nuanced, but it's not. They will talk about, the fact that women are more likely to have a undergraduate diploma, right? They will
Yes.
say, "Well, that now gender inequality is flipped and
Oh,
women are more
yes.
likely." But it's like, no, no, women weren't allowed to go to school, right? Like women were barred and
Yes.
punished for getting
For going to
educated.
school.
And that's what created that system. And the system we're in right now, I think it is absolutely important to talk about that disparity. It is extremely important for us to make sure that men and boys can be as
Yes.
educated as they want, and that should be something that is available and accessible. But to call that gender inequality is to
It is
fundamentally
so,
misunderstand,
yes.
and it's actually putting the framing of domination, right, of hierarchy, which is inherent in patriarchy, and
Yes.
sort of like projecting it onto women and onto feminism, when like that's not a
Absolutely.
goal. Yeah, and we're
And
not
yeah.
preventing men from studying. We're not implementing any laws to do that. It's important to address it, but to address it in that same framework really, to me, shows the lack of understanding of how gender,
Imagination.
of
Yes.
imagination.
And
Yes.
that's right. And
Yeah.
also, this is just a really powerful pet peeve for me in that
Yeah.
entire conversation.
Yeah.
And it is that one of the things that advocates for the boy crisis are saying is that schools are feminized because there are women and no men. And to be perfectly clear about factually why that is the case, it was male flight. There were men teachers, but
Well, women weren't
the
allowed to be
in
teachers. It
right,
was
they weren't allowed to be
100%.
teachers, and then women join, and then men feel male supremacy stigmatized by
Yeah.
working in women's jobs with women. The salaries start dropping because women's labor is devalued, and then the men leave. So the reason there are so few male teachers is male flight, based on this idea that it's somehow embarrassing or degrading or stigmatizing to be doing that work. And so boys are having the exact same experience, except they feel that education is stigmatizing because girls and women do well and girls and women are succeeding. And so it's not the feminization of the space, it's literally male flight happening
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
different levels in the society. And we don't talk about it. And honestly, that whole male flight thing, it is what happened in the last election. Young men literally looked at democracy and thought, women have taken over. Older men and political pundits say the same thing. The Democrats paid too much attention to women. There were too many women's issues. There were too many women visible, blah, blah, blah. And so you can see that same dynamic of flight away from a space that they think is feminized.
That is fascinating. I am obsessed with that take. I also this is like my favorite live I've ever been a part of, because we are now joined by Komal Minhas, who is just as amazing as Soraya on so many of these topics. Komal, thank you for joining us. I clunkily added you while Soraya was talking because I didn't know how long it would take for you to join. So I'm sorry, that was a little you coming in hot. But I love all those points, Soraya. I feel like we need to do a live just on the masculinity gurus,
I will do
like
it
just
with
like
you.
bit by bit
100%.
going, because it's I I know you have to go, so maybe we can leave on this point, but I struggle with nitpicking. I feel like I'm being nitpicky when I get annoyed at some of the things that they're
I don't think
doing.
it's nitpicky because
Yeah.
this is the other thing, because I don't wanna monopolize this particular segment, but I will just say this one thing. The idea, again, that a woman would be an authority in masculinity, it's like the brain cannot contain that
Oh,
idea,
no. No.
right?
Of
And
course not.
and
Yeah.
so even a person who very smart, very, adept at other fields, all of those things can just move sideways because, of course, isn't it just a matter of opinion?
Yeah.
And that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
We have opinions, but we also have expertise.
Yes.
Yeah,
And it's also still a way to blame women.
it
It's
is.
like women will pick up the slack in teaching, will do the jobs that men don't wanna do, will do the jobs that don't pay well. Single women will raise boys whose fathers leave, and then women somehow get blamed, right?
Yes,
Like, we're literally doing, all of these jobs and I think doing far more labor in that sense
yes.
than men are doing, and then we sort of get blamed for doing it. So
But that is
I
the
find it
leitmotif, that's right.
yeah, I find it so infuriating. We should definitely do a part 2. You're
Yes,
welcome to stay. I know that you are on book tour,
yes.
celebrating and
Thank you.
talking about this amazing book. All we want is everything. It's a beautiful book. It is, as all of your books, just filled with so much important data. I had a bunch that I wanted to talk about. You write that 0% of media platforms are owned by women, 90% of social media platforms are owned by men, 96% of non-consensual sexualized deepfakes target women. It takes 23 minutes for a user on TikTok or YouTube to be fed unsolicited manosphere content. All of this is in this book. It's a great book to buy
Thank you.
for the holidays. Are coming up. It's
Give a
just
book to
great.
a man. Give your book
Yeah,
to a
give it to a
man. Give
man.
my book
Give
to
it
a
to a
man.
man.
Can we just start?
Uh,
We did this like 15 years ago. Can we start something?
Yes, let's do it. And everyone should also go follow Soraya's amazing Substack and just her writing in general. She's such a force in the world. I wouldn't be here without you. You were one of just the first writers that I would consume your writing and just try and emulate you in everything that I
Well,
did. So
I am
thank you
your
for
biggest
joining
fan,
us
really.
and
It's just been a
writing
joy. Yeah.
throughout all the chaos.
I
Okay,
do have to
go.
leave because I would really love to sit. I'm going to watch you, but I'm not going to be here.
Yes,
So,
but
all right.
it'll be
Thank
good. We're
you.
going to
Thank you,
talk about
everyone who
how to
joined
channel
us.
all this anger. Yeah.
All right.
Bye,
Goodbye.
Soraya.
Bye.
Como is. Hi.
Hey, girl.
This is
Wow.
Como is a bestie, is like true bestie. But you know what? That is just one of the many things that she does. And I am so excited that she's here joining us. She is a bomb of wisdom. And okay, so Como helps people with their emotions, with their business. She's a resilience coach. She is really good. If you are going through a crisis, I have basically Brene Brown meets a monk on speed dial, okay? And this is why I wanted to bring her on this live today, because her gifts need to be shared with the world and with my favorite people, who are all of you who are on this live with us. So, Como, welcome to whatever this is. We don't have a name for it, but
We love
we'll
whatever
come
this
on soon.
is.
Yeah,
We
whatever
love
this
this Friday afternoons with Liz Plank.
Friday afternoons. I wanted to bring you on because I am feeling a lot of rage. I'm feeling a lot of rage, often, but I think this week I reached a fever pitch of just which we've spent the last hour with Soraya sort of going through the frustrating amount of news out there of powerful men who lie and abuse and get away with it, and it can be sort of tough to just be like existing right now in the world. And you are really good at helping people distill what emotions they're feeling and channel them into something productive. And so I thought that we could have you on to do that today.
Absolutely. I
Are
would
you
love for us to
down?
dive into that. I think that one of the biggest problems that we're facing individually outside of affordability crisis and all these different pieces is how do we channel and synthesize, like you said, the rage, the energy, the emotions that coincide with headlines that hit us every single day, with lived experiences that we have to confront the, assault of different experiences that headlines cause in us. We have to keep that in motion because we have to still work. We have to still live our lives. We still have to function under fascism and capitalism and patriarchy. And so how do we make sure that we keep moving? Which is why, for me, it's a privilege when you call and we get to jam on it, because the work that you do is highly impactful for so many women and men who are on side. And so we have to keep all of us functioning well.
Yes.
We have to keep going.
Yes. And isn't that in itself a form, whatever, I know it's like so overused, but like joy being a form of resistance. I really do think that that has been a big thing that I've been trying to do this year, because I realized that just my mindset was like a loser mindset, which like only gives them more power. And what I mean by loser mindset is I was so focused on what, on the negative, right? I'm doom scrolling. I'm consuming so much negative news, and it makes me almost have a biased perspective of where things are at, and also what kind of power I have in trying to sort of change it. We talk a lot about learned hopelessness, which is I think what many of us sort of can feel, especially on a week like this, where we go, does anything matter, anymore? Is there anything I can do? What?
Fascinating. Something really fascinating about learned
Yes.
helplessness is Martin
Yes.
Seligman, who is the creator of positive psychology, and he wrote a book called Flourishing, actually did the studies on learned helplessness. So he was the researcher who worked with organizations that were looking at, how do we break people? How do we make sure that they don't persevere, that they're unable to continue moving forward, that when we're doing different interrogation tactics and things like that we get them into a state of learned helplessness. And that same man then started studying flourishing and positive psychology. Can you karmically come back from that? I don't know. But it has created an entire body of work that is enabling us to feel well and flourish in our lives. But isn't that just...
Wait. What? Oh, wait. Okay. I thought you were saying he studies those things like to criticize them. No, he was actually developing ways to make people feel hopeless?
Yes.
For the government? Okay.
I don't know if particularly for the government, but he was the individual who began sort of the research on this learned helplessness piece of things.
Whoa.
Yes.
Whoa.
Marty Seligman, the founder of positive psychology, University of Pennsylvania. So, but when we think about it from that standpoint too, it's like joy has to be the resistance.
Yeah.
Because if the very researcher who helped us understand how to break a human mind is the same one who said, but we can still flourish when we're broken and when we've been broken, then that has to be, like, we have to maintain that truth. That
It's so
in
true.
like the face of being in an onslaught of assault and, the algorithm trying to maintain our attention instead of working on resistance movements and protest and all of these things, and the very important work that we do to keep people well. We have to be able to persevere through that.
So how do we do that, Como?
Yes.
How do we do it? Because I'm mad and I don't know where to put it. Where do I put my mad?
I feel like this is so complicated, right? Because there's not one answer to where we put our mad. We put our mad in phone calls with our friends. We put our mad in the hobbies that we choose to pick up, even though they feel futile on the hardest days. We put our mad into the medications that our doctors tell us we need to be on. We put our mad in our therapy sessions.
I have mine right here. It's called it's a special Friday special. It's called Zoloft and chocolate.
But look, you bedazzled it. You bedazzled it, Liz Plank. Let's go. I can't even. Wow. Where does one procure such a beautiful medical... But these small joys, right? If we think of the way that we want to synthesize the anger and the rage that we feel, it's also like culturally sensitive, and therapists who have, who speak the same language as us, who have the similar beliefs to us, not to stay in the echo chamber, but to have safe places to process. And I think what you and I have been exceptionally good at the last few years is also boundarying the people who just do not deserve access to us anymore. Because when we're in this kind of onslaught, when we feel this kind of rage, when we're hearing about the Piggy comments and the birth control being lapsed in its ability to be used, $9 million of it in Belgium, when we're hearing the Epstein files being released.
What happened in Belgium?
So after U.S. aid ended up being canceled, there was a whole warehouse of birth control that ended up now starting to be expired. And you had women's organizations from around the world being like, hey, US, give us this birth control. We want to disperse it to women who need this in the countries that you so conveniently left behind. But that's not part of Project 2025. They want reproduction. They want women to not have reproductive control. I'm really angry all the time, Liz. So I don't know if it's about processing the anger or just channeling the anger. We have to keep doing things. We have to keep building the things we're here to build.
We do. So what's your advice? Like, what's a good journal prompt? Like, what's a good, maybe everyone should say, because something I've been trying to do, and maybe we can do this right now. My sponsor, I'm in a 12-step program. She was like, make a list of all of the healthy ways, like that, make a list of the things that you do that make you feel better and that are healthy, right? So instead of going and just scrolling or going to Vegas, which is where I'm at right now. No, it's not the healthy one because it's for research.
F1 is healthy on some days.
F1 is healthy. Yeah, all the pasta and the wine I drank last night was really healthy. I'm feeling so healthy right now.
You feel so good.
I went to the store this morning. The first thing I bought was Midol because I got my period obviously this morning.
Obviously,
just
and
as
you're
a fun
branded well
surprise.
today in the red.
I'm repping. I'm repping.
You know that I tell this to my husband. If I bleed, everyone bleeds. Like I rage when I'm on my period. Like, stop. Like, why do I only have to suffer? We all suffer together.
Yeah. Because also everyone relies on us bleeding. Like, it keeps
it's
the
literally
world
how
populated.
We make life. Also, our economy requires it. Okay, we could also go into a deep dive on the rage around infertility and those lacks of supports when it's literally the way the economy is needing us to go in terms of supporting reproductive health of women.
Go off,
yes.
Queen.
Okay, so here's my hot take. So I am navigating infertility. Liz knows this very intimately. So I can't currently carry a child, but I'm starting my IVF retrieval. Bless Race to 35, where probably some of these people have found Liz's wisdom.
Woohoo!
So I start my IVF retrieval in December. But in the lead up to this, I've had a massive abdominal surgery akin to a C-section, had my reproductive organs pulled off of each other because of the intensity of endometriosis, which is what I suffer from. But over this period of time, I've been able to see the impact of having venture capital funding in the fertility industry and how so many fertility clinics now, instead of live births being their markers of success, it is actually rounds of IVF. Because each round is a minimum of $10,000 to $20,000. And women who have endometriosis, like I walked into a clinic and they said, we have no endo protocol. You are going to have to just do a straight round of IVF, which would have been $26,000 with all of the meds, all of the retrieval and the transfer. And I said, no, like there's surgical intervention. I know this is an option. I have to travel 8 hours now to see that specialist when I go. But most people, most women don't know these things. They don't know that their egg quality could be poor after a first round. They don't know they're supposed to take supplements for 3 months or that their partner's not supposed to be drinking alcohol, smoking weed, doing activity.
Going in the sauna.
Got to keep those balls cold. So this is my thing is like we have now turned women's fertility into the next cash cow for the venture capital system. And it's going to ruin our economy because we need to replace our workforce. Sorry that's like how extreme we have to think about the birth rate.
Yeah.
And with immigration being such a, frowned upon topic, how do you think these countries are going to pay their pension plans eventually? You have to figure this out. Women have to be prioritized. And if talking about it from an economic standpoint is what's going to get lawmakers to care, because this week showed us that, again, there's so little care about women from these leaders that we have to talk about this more openly. Because our suffering doesn't matter. People don't fucking care that I'm in pain all the time. But they do care that they need me to reproduce to help our economy.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it like that.
Yeah, I care. And I'm going to talk about it. And also, the thing that I also want to talk about is how there's 10 times more research money going to erectile dysfunction than endometriosis.
You're the one who sent me the study where it was like, are women with endo hotter because they have endometriosis? How are the men affected when their wives have endo? It's like, Jesus Christ. How is this the conversation? I am a whole
Again,
human.
I say this all the time, but the fact that women don't commit more murder is astounding to me. I think for the amount of times that we are homicidal and that we don't commit homicide, we should get time off. We should get free paid time off just for all the murder we
Free
don't
spaces
commit.
without men. Free spaces, third space, fourth spaces are spaces for women to not have to interact with any man.
I like that.
Yes.
Or just not interact with anybody. I just kind of like
that too. No, but
I'm
also,
overstimulated.
we need to, when we talk about rage and processing right now,
Yeah, okay.
the feeling that we feel to self-isolate is one that we also have to push against.
Oh,
Because
no.
if
But it feels
joy
so
is
good.
resistance, Liz, then community is a part of that resistance.
Okay.
And these broligarchs just want us to stay on our phones and brain rot and not actually connect with one another. Because then we're just going to, eat our brains alive. Like, we have to stay in community. I've been out so many times this week. I'm so tired, happy, but it's necessary.
Yeah, I'm tired, happy. Yeah, because it'll take more energy, but actually scrolling on your phone is so we should talk about what we did. Okay, we actually came up with a really cool commitment device to help each other not just have more community, but also beat the scrolling machine that is like pulling us in that direction. Yeah,
we're protecting our intellect.
Yes, the tech bros that are literally who study, like Marty Seligman, how to get us to spend more time on our little square and our big squares, screens.
Yeah.
And so Komal and I decided, we were like, we want to read more. How do we read more? We said, okay, this is what we're going to do. Every Sunday, we are going to text each other one thing that we read, one thing that we learned from a book this week.
Yeah.
It's pretty low bar. Like, it's definitely.
But we call it our bestie book report.
Yes.
It is our bestie book report.
And you sent a calendar invite, which is the most you thing ever. Use calendar invites. Komal is my most, she creates curriculums for everything. And of course, she had to create a curriculum for this. But it's really been working because it does put a little bit of pressure on me when I'm about to grab my phone and then I see the book, across the room and I'm like, I'm going to have to text Komal something that I learned.
But also, can we just flag the book that you're reading? Because I also think it could be depresso inducing. I'm not sure though. I cannot verify because I haven't read it myself.
Oh, the book about female biology, like how we're all fucked.
Yes. I'm not maybe part of our anger, our process, this plan we're making together. So step 1 is joy is part of resistance. Step 2 is we got to be in community. We got to let the rage out. Like I got to do my vent session about venture capital funding in the fertility space. Thank you all for listening to that. Also, one thing I did pitch to my fertility clinic was to let clients have equity in the clinic. Because if you're getting all my money and I'm now a stat as your success rate, I should be able to own part of your facility, in my opinion. Why not?
What did they say?
He said, wow, I've never thought of that. He actually was open to it because he's actually a very thoughtful, kind man. So let's see. I'll report back. But so that's our joy is a form of resistance. Stay in community.
Yeah.
Don't let your brain rot because that is giving into I just am so focused on maintaining brain health right now. And stay in community. I think these are some key factors, and have a bestie book club so that you just continue. But also don't consume content that's going to make you feel worse. We got to have a little bit of a boundary around that. We got to let ourselves dabble, know what's going on, but we also need to protect our mental health from that standpoint. So just curious if this book brings you down, we got to find another one. We got to find another.
Well, I love Sam Irby. She's one of my favorite writers. And I actually did notice that I didn't want to read the book. I'm not going to name the book because I don't want people to, it's just a book about feminism. So it's definitely not the most uplifting. But I really want to read it and I'm going to read it. But I realized that I was like, maybe read something a little light before you go to bed and not about how the entire female species is under attack. And so I read I reread basically. I'm a big rereader. I'm a big rewatcher. I rewatch series and
movies. Can I tell you something that research tells us is that it's it comforts you. Like, it actually can help you feel better. There's not something wrong with rewatching and rereading. Like, it helps trigger nostalgia. It helps you because you know what's about to unfold. You're not in a high risk environment where you're like, there's this website called Does the Dog Die? And it lets you know any sort of abuse that happens in the movie. Because I'm not out here trying to find movies about like that have sexual violence in it. I don't want to see that. So anytime we're about to start a movie, I say to Mitch, I'm like, does the dog die? And then he looks it up for us. Because I don't want to consume that. So we have to be thoughtful about that.
We really do. I'm obsessed with that. I'm having just a resistance to anything in terms of like watching content, or just again, we call it content, but it could be movies or TV or books or magazines. I just want to read things that are uplifting and watch things that are uplifting. And actually, like you're allowed. Like you're allowed to watch something funny and dumb. You're allowed to read a book about a stupid, not stupid, to read a light romance novel and
to watch a happy Christmas movie like you did on Sunday.
Christmas movies in October. Yeah, to wear Christmas manicures.
Look at you. How cute. You guys, anytime Liz is the queen of costumes and delightful like hats and scarves and just wait. Sometimes we're seeing each other after months, like last year in Montreal, and she's just walking Christmas, and I'm like, who couldn't be happy seeing this walking towards them? Like it was so beautiful and brought me so much joy. So we can delight others. My mom always says, "Be the sunshine." Like so, be the sunshine. Dress it up. Bring a little vibrancy to the day.
Yeah, smile to a stranger. I mean, some of these things are so, I don't know, feel like trite, but they're really not. I mean, I love when a stranger smiles back at me, when I have like a positive interaction. Like this morning, I arrived to the bar. Well, wait. I went to the bar because the table, there were no more tables. So Maddie and I, my DP, we ate breakfast at the bar. And the waiter was like, "Hey, like, how's it going?" And I was like, I arrived with my Midol, my Visine, my Dramamine for motion sickness, my Alka-Seltzer, and I had a fifth one, but electrolytes. And I was like, I've had better mornings, and he was like, okay. And then I ordered my food and I was just so happy about my food. Like, I ate, like a hash brown that's like, I don't know why I love square hash browns and square tater tots.
Yes.
Just such a fun spin and such a fun surprise. And then I was like, I always order a side of mayo and I was like dipping my potatoes in my mayo and I was so happy. And he was like, "Oh my God, see, you came around." Like, and we just like shared this really positive interaction with each other. And that made my day so much brighter. And it's been, speaking of research, there's research that finds that literally just having one interaction with a stranger on your commute makes people far more happier. Like it actually impacts your happiness and throughout the day. But most people don't think that it does. So they in the study, they had to force people to do it. And even when they were forced to do it, it made them, they reported being happier afterwards. Yes. And so sometimes you do have to, I'm a big proponent of give compliments to strangers. You actually are great at that.
I
give
love
compliments.
I have a secret joy.
Yes. You
that,
do
like,
that.
And also the female gaze, like I just love letting women know that I see that they did that for me and not him. Like I love letting them know that I get it and that they crushed it today and that they need to know that. Like it gives me an infinite amount of joy. And it's these little micro things, and you said it's like things that seem trite or simple, but why is it that so often the things that are seen as trite are the things that women love? We know this. We talk about this. We're like, why do we belittle hobbies, the crocheting, the coloring, the rom-coms, when it's actually great for our nervous system and our well-being? Like complimenting people, smiling at people.
So nice.
Except in safe spaces because I just don't know about men most of the time. But I'm just out here trying to do the simple things that make me happy. And this year I've been, as you know, journaling every day for the last 9 months. And in that journaling, in my Artist's Way pages, like it inevitably turns into a gratitude list. Yeah. And not in like I just hate how
I know.
pedantic it's
I
become. Like,
know.
it's
It's
just
true.
like, so, but it's the psychology shows us it's true
It
that
really does.
noticing, recognizing, writing it down allows you to simply lift your spirit. It's the
Mhm.
same as we know with movement, with all of these different things. We know all the things that make us feel good. It's just finding the ways to actually start doing them for ourselves. The other thing
Yeah.
I want to say
Mhm.
is like the high low of it all, of like just even the
Mhm.
example of today, like the conversation with Soraya being very specific on the research, feminism, historical analysis, looking at the news directly, and then us being able to come into this conversation that is helping our nervous systems feel relaxed, helping us feel like we're just chatting with our girlfriends, helping us
Mhm.
feel connected to one another. The essence of Liz Plank is this duality. And we've talked about it with boy problems of just like it's so important that we can do both and that we see more
Yeah.
examples of the LSE educated undergrad at McGill, masters at LSE, box me.
This is what it's like to be her friend, literally. She memorizes
fucking
all of your qualification and she's like, "You're gonna have to remember who the fuck you
fuck
are,
you
because
are.
I will."
I will make you remember. And then we can just be little, chill besties chatting about whatever we want. But it's so important to do high low, to do both in
It
this
is.
economy, in this hellscape. Okay, so I
Yeah.
also have another rabbit hole
Yeah.
that I want to talk about.
Let's
Okay,
go.
so this week and the Epstein files of it all and the Piggy comment of it all, I think when we talk about how do we structurally change this? I agree the systems approach is so critical. And I also know that individual stories matter because, as we know, like millions are a statistic. One is like a heart wrenching story. That's
Mm.
why like storytelling about the individual is so important because it helps wrap things in a context. So if Trump goes down for this, don't see that coming, it will be a historic example of how, a man's pedophilia is taking him out. But Australia did a landmark study a couple of years ago, and it looked at men self-reporting their inclinations toward pedophilia. And the stats that came out were that around 1 in 6 Australian men reports sexual feelings towards children, that around 1 in 10 Australian men has sexually offended against a child, with approximately half of this group reporting sexual feelings towards children. And that of that 4.9%, they were more likely to be married, working with children, earning higher incomes, report anxiety, depression, and binge drinking behaviors, have been sexually abused or had adverse experiences in childhood, be active online, including on social, encrypted apps, and cryptocurrency, consume pornography that involves violence or bestiality. Like, the government did this study. Of the men who have sexual feelings, 29.6 of them want help for these feelings
Wow.
towards children, which is 4.5% of Australian men. And I think often when we're having this conversation, we're saying reactionarily, how do we like get people to care about this? How do we get people to care that Trump is a pedophile? How do we get people to care that men at these power levels are doing this? We have to understand the core of the problem. And it's that there is like the stats are starting to come out that show us the proclivities, early intervention, that we have to have open dialogues around some of these issues from a starting point. And then when I was looking for stats around, so separate from the pedophilia piece of this and how important this study was to be done and that these men are self-reporting it, the other piece is when I looked up, we always know that women are abused more than men in 1 in 3 accounts of sexual violence, 1 in 6 women will experience, blah, blah, blah. But we never get a stat of how many men are perpetrators. And it's like,
Mhm.
why are we not asking that question? Why are we not studying how many men? And because at the end of the day, the system won't change if the
Yeah.
system condones the behavior. If the human nature of it, the men, like the proclivity of this
Yeah.
is the demand will be met.
Yeah.
And then women will keep going in circles or communities will keep going in circles
Right.
trying to say, pay attention to this when we just have the enablers in power. Like
Yeah.
this part of this that got me is like that they're married, working with children, and earning higher incomes. Like it's just astounding.
Mind-boggling. Yeah.
Yes.
And, we don't have evidence that Donald Trump is a pedophile, but obviously a
Yes.
lot of what is uh, been reported, that's in the Epstein emails is certainly, making people
Assume that.
question or make assumptions on that, or have questions about that, and I think are really valid questions to ask. And I think so much about what you just said, that men, if there's no, it sort of comes back to what we were talking about, Soraya. I don't know if you were on air yet, but she was talking about how we just live in this male supremacy, that even within feminist, quote unquote, sort of initiatives, that they can be seeped in with that male supremacy. And I think that solutions to gender-based violence, what you've outlined in all of this research, one of the things is that even those solutions are seeped in male supremacy because there's very few hotlines, right, for men who are violent, for men who are abusive, or men who are thinking of committing violence. One of the numbers you shared is just a pretty high percentage of these men that sort of want help. And what are the resources that are available to them? And when we live in that sort of male supremacy framework, the solutions are often put on women, right? It's up to women to stop men from raping them by dressing differently, and by not going out at night, by changing their behavior, by not dating men. Why were you dating him? Why were you living with him? Why did you stay? And it just doesn't actually really help anybody.
It's
It
systemic
doesn't.
gaslighting.
It's
Like,
yeah,
it's systemic manipulation
yeah,
because
exactly.
so many of these people in these positions of power are attracted to power for specific reasons and
Right.
are the ones who want to perpetuate this space. Like, lest we forget the rest of those people, Larry Summers was part of a democratic institution. Like, this
Mm-hmm.
is human nature versus Republican versus Democrat. And this is
Mm-hmm.
where part of that truth needs to be absorbed to
Yeah,
follow that path forward towards solutioning. It's like,
it's so true.
we're going to keep like beating the same drum if we don't just name the fact that, hey, like, you like this. You
Yeah,
want it to stay this way. This
right.
is serving you so well.
Yeah.
And me talking about it, like, that there's so little that's going to come from just me. So we all just, like, this continued conversation is
And
also part of that resolving anger, channeling emotion, is saying the quiet parts out loud over and over and over again,
yeah,
making power uncomfortable.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
And
my
instead of
other rant.
Totally. And instead of being so focused on the feminization, it's like, well, let's look at what tools and resources are available to men who don't want to be violent, who would like to have other models of how to channel anger and how to channel their feelings. I think, yeah, it's so, I don't know. It just again reveals that so much of our own brainwashing when we're all, which again, we're raised in this culture. We talked a little bit earlier about with Soraya. Like a lot of women are voted for Trump. A lot of women are voting for a lot of these, and even the women who are standing up now in terms of the Epstein files. Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert and Nancy Mace. These are women who a week ago, were standing by their man, and so we really do have to acknowledge just how seeped in all of this
It
is.
is.
And yeah, it is like we were all gaslit, but we can be degaslit,
We can be degaslit.
degaslit, and that
Yes.
happens by watching shitty Christmas movies. Part of the
By
degaslighting.
watching shitty Christmas movies, by listening to conversations with people who care enough to still want change
Yeah,
and not be,
yeah,
brainwashed by these things.
yeah.
I will be the old vocal aunt that everybody's like, don't talk to her because she will go off on you about all of these things. And it's like, absolutely. I would love to be that person forever. But yeah, so it's the little things that
It
collectively come
is.
together. It's surrounding yourself, but also realizing that part of surrounding ourselves
Mm.
in the research, in the creators that we respond to, we're within our own echo chamber at the same time. So it's how do we also find ways to move beyond just talking to each other about this. I did so many panels when I would do a lot more women in business conversations and entrepreneurship, exclusively women on the panel, women moderators, women in the room. And it's like, well, where are the men? Where are the decision
Yeah.
makers? Where are these people who actually move the dial on this in so many big ways? Um, so we got to get out of the echo chamber as well and get these messages further.
We do, and we're
We
so
do.
so thankful to the men in this chat. Robert with his
Yes.
funny comments, rage rooms for angry dudes. I like that as a
Let's
policy
go.
proposal. And Allison points out abusers are nearly in every family system as well, and we sure do know that.
We do.
Well, thank you so much for this really wonderful time together. I hope it was as meaningful and fun for all of you as it was for me. I really enjoyed having you on Como. You are such a great example of a person who is like informed, knows what the fuck is up, is ready to fight, but also enjoy her fucking life. And
Yeah.
you are so good at building community. I love your Substack. It is such a balm of wisdom and joy and healing. And you are such a fierce advocate for women and for all marginalized people. And I feel really lucky to be your friend. And I feel really lucky that you joined us for this lovely Friday afternoon hungover chat. And I hope we get to do this again. So, what do you want to leave people with for the weekend? Is there a channel your anger challenge?
Yeah, I would say that it's Friday, and
Friday.
when we're looking at our weekend, this is coveted time. This is time when we're all recovering, restoring from the week, or continuing our jobs if we work jobs that happen to take up our weekends, as we do often as well. So I'd say, like, why don't we each say one thing that we're going to be doing for ourselves in the next 48 outside of Bestie Book Club, and then we offer a suggestion or piece of advice or a prompt for our listeners to
Yes.
take away for the weekend?
Oh my God, wait, that's a lot. Okay.
Classic Coco.
Okay, you know what? Well, what's mine?
Here, I'll start. I'll give you a
Okay,
second
you
to think about
start.
it.
Yeah.
So in the next 48, I'm spending time with my friends at their little 6-year-old's birthday party today, because
Yeah.
although some people see going to 6-year-old birthday parties as, deeply unsettling, I really like Rohan. So I'm going to go and celebrate him. And then I'm going to go see a lit up Christmas tree and Christmas market. And I'm going to
Fun.
go live my Christmas adventure days. And then I'm going to watch some horror thrillers tomorrow, because that's actually my comfort joy.
Oh.
And I'm going to reorganize my linen closet while reading my book for Bestie Book Club. Like
Oh my
that's
God.
my dream weekend right now before
Oh
we
my
have
God,
to head
fun.
into some chaos.
I don't have as much freedom as you, and so my answer is not going to be as. And it's just this weekend because I'm not at home and I'm working right now
Yes.
in Vegas. But my work is so fulfilling because I get to create stories for all of you. But I'm gonna have fun with it. I'm gonna do an episode of Boy Problems right here tomorrow
Hey.
morning, and I'm gonna go out tonight. Okay, you know what I'm gonna do?
Yeah.
I'm actually not gonna bring my camera to this party tonight. I think I'm just gonna
Dang.
go to enjoy myself and maybe meet some people that I don't
Wow.
that I don't know, and just really indulge in the Vegas of it all. And then I'm going to go home and take a bath, because I wanted to take a bath today. That would have been the really nice thing, but there is no bath at this hotel room. This was a $89 a night hotel room.
Well
I don't know how
done.
we found it, but it is incredible and I love it. But
No
there's a
bathtub.
shower.
Liz loves a bath. She
I
needs
love
a bathtub.
because I learned that baths you create more serotonin. If you're in a serotonin deficiency, it really does help. Like if you're feeling low, petting puppies and taking a bath and getting a massage. When I read that, I
Girl,
was
I
like,
had my massage today and I thought of you. I was
I
like,
love
this is
getting
for
massages.
Lizzie. This is for Liz.
I love it. And you can give
Okay.
yourself a massage. You can you can give yourself a hug. You do it
Yeah.
this way. You put one arm here. Okay. You don't need that because you have a husband at home who can hug you. Okay. And then you do, and then you just hug yourself. It does kind of like feel good.
It helps your nervous system relax.
It does. It does. So we're going to be kind
You
to
know
our
what
nervous
also helps
system.
is
Yeah.
jumping 50 times in the morning. And I started
Oh,
doing Qigong in the morning because I'm now a
Qigong.
geriatric woman.
Okay.
But it's
Love it.
so enjoyable. Anyways, yes. But I also need to
Jumping.
say that Liz is the queen of self-care, because when I stayed with her in New York, she has a foot massager. And of course, after a day of walking through the city, like 30,000 steps, you need your ankles and your feet to be mobile. And so I instantly bought a foot massager, and I literally, when I watch TV, I'm like, my feet are so relaxed.
Really nice. It's really
so
nice.
nice.
My dream is to have enough money that I can get the massage pod. Does anyone know what I'm talking about?
No.
Okay, I went Okay, my friend James, who you
SpawnCon.
know,
You should get some SpawnCon and you
Oh,
should do an
no.
episode in the massage
is the massage pod.
pod. Yes.
I just need it. I went mattress shopping with my friend James, our joint friend, our common friend, and he, yeah. So I was waiting for him to choose a bed. So obviously I'm just hanging out, and they're like, do you want to sit in the massage pod? I was like, what? Of course I do. And it's literally like, it's an egg. You're just like in this egg and it just like massages every
God.
part of your body. It like you're like going down, you're going up and squeezing. It's so good. And it's like $10,000. I was like, yeah, like, I was like, how much is it? How much can it be? You know?
Yeah.
And then when they said the price, I was like, yeah, I'm just going to stay in here for like the next 20 minutes and then I'm going to go. But
Yeah.
thank you for the
Liz,
ride.
you
But,
should get a sponsorship and do at least
yeah.
1 or 2 episodes of Boy Problems from your
In the
massage pod.
pod.
Where
Okay.
in your apartment would you put it?
I I don't know. I would have to talk to my roommate about that. Maybe where does it in the living room?
Yeah.
I guess it would be in the living. I think that's the only
It could
acceptable place.
actually be like a seat and your guests just sit in it to talk to you. It's perfect. It's perfect. Okay, I will leave the
Okay.
final prompt for our listeners. I will say
Yes.
for
Yes.
your journaling
Prompt
this
us.
weekend, if you would like to, is naming your white hot rage and listing out
Yeah.
all the things that you're so mad at the world or your world about and getting them on the page.
Yeah.
And then synthesizing that and asking yourself, what does this all make me want to do more of, less of,
Oh.
and what actions can I take after
Yes.
processing all of this?
Yes.
So that is what I offer our listeners. White hot rage list,
White
what
hot
you can do
rage.
with it, what it makes
Yeah.
you want to do more of, less of, and then what
Yeah.
some next steps could look like for you.
And even just putting it on the page, literally like
Yeah.
rage writing for 18 minutes or 8 minutes or how much time you have, it really does help. It's a little frustrating. Again, it's like taking your stupid mental health walk for your stupid mental health, but it's the little things that do make a difference. And just getting it all on the page and being like, this person is a C word and this politician I wish could, you just write it all and then burn it. You don't even have to read it. Like it's just putting it out, then it is channeled and then you get to, it's not pestering, and you don't feel
Yes.
like you need to do, because what happens to me when I'm ruminating is somehow I'm convinced that I have to do something about this. When it's like, yeah, I can't really do anything about Trump being found liable for sexual abuse and being the president. I mean, there's a
Mhm.
lot of things that I can do to channel, my activism and create community around wanting to change that. But if I'm just in my head and I'm not, and it's like I'm trying to fix it. But if I can put it on the page, then I can move on and do things that are much more productive. So
Putting it on the page and then moving it through your body. So we love a dance party. Pick
We
a
love a
song,
dance
jump
party.
around, the somatic processing.
Yes.
Also a big part of the synthesis
Shake
of
it off.
rage, which is why the joy is resistance. Because if we're joyful, that's why the raves of the 90s were also so impactful at the time because of like collective processing and these different things. Like,
True.
right? Like it was a
Yes, totally.
Gen Z aren't dancing as much. We all need to dance more.
We all need to dance more. We need to be
So
club.
tonight you're gonna party without
Okay,
a
that's
camera,
perfect.
and you're gonna
Okay,
dance,
I'm gonna do
darling.
that. I'm gonna dance for democracy.
Dance
That's what I'm
for
gonna do.
democracy.
And you won't see it because I'm not gonna bring my camera.
That's so
But I'm gonna
nice.
do it and be thinking about all of you. So thank you so much, Como. Everyone, please go subscribe to her Substack. She and just go follow her on Instagram. All of her work is so amazing. She is you have such wholesome intentions for the work that you do and for the world that we live in. And that's one of my favorite things about you and getting to follow you online. So I encourage everyone to do that. You will not regret it. Dubstep for democracy, Robert. Yes. Everyone go dubstep for democracy. And we will see you next Friday. Thank you for being with us. Have a wonderful, rejuvenating weekend, everybody. It's so nice to spend time with you. Bye, Como. Bye, everyone.